Hey everybody, my name is LaPrecious and welcome to my channel. Let's talk with LaPrecious. So today I'm going to be doing a review on my 600-pound life Irene story. So Irene was pretty much one of those people that could carry her weight well. Now, when it comes to my 600-pound life, there have been a lot of people on here who have been like so big and so just their bodies have just been so amassed that they can't get out of bed. They can't, they can't get out of bed. They can't move out of bed. They can't, pretty much do anything. It's like they're just stuck in the bed or stuck in the chair, just stuck where they're at. They're bedridden because their weight has made them handicapped. But Irene, in this case, she's been holding up her weight pretty well. And one thing I've noticed is that her, and I remember there was another woman who was transgendered that was on my 600-pound life as well, and she carried her weight pretty well too. So the episode, it opens up with her eating like it always does. You know, every time my 600-pound life comes on, it's always somebody eating in the bed or in the bathroom taking a shower or in the kitchen cooking, and and we pretty much see how they've gotten so big. So with Irene and her story, it starts off with her sitting on the couch eating Popeye's chicken and, pretty much talking about how, she's been big, how she wants to lose the weight, the addictions that she has to overcome. So let's get started, with her story. So she pretty much talks about her life in the beginning after her friend leaves and she, eats her Popeye's chicken. And then her niece comes in and buys her like 3 or 4 orders that she got from Burger King. So to me, based on her life story, it appears that she talked about how her mom pretty much raised her as a single parent because when her and her dad got a divorce, it pretty much made her depressed and she started to eat. But one thing I noticed is that with her story, it relates to a lot of black people's story too. And I feel like that's why a lot of us have issues with obesity because her life story starts off with her mom and her sister and her dad. Then her dad was abusive towards the mom, and that's why the mom, probably left or why they got a divorce. And then she said when her parents got a divorce, it made her depressed and she started to eat. Then she said that they grew up in the church. And as black people who've grown up in church all our lives, we know that when it comes to church, especially black churches, we love to eat. We eat for funeral repasses. We eat for church anniversary. We eat for reunions, pastor's birthday, first lady's birthday, everything. We eat for everything. So I could see her eating with that. And then she said that she would even eat so much that she would start to throw up and whatnot. And then she talked about how her mom, since her mom was the mother and the father in the house, she had to work long hours. And since she wasn't able to come home as much, she brought them fast food. And that's what kind of started an unhealthy relationship with food that she had. Now, the reason why I said there's a correlation between her story and black people dealing with obesity is one thing I've noticed from, growing up and being raised and seeing how other kids I've taken care of have been raised in my family and whatnot. We When it comes to children and food, it's like we like to pacify them with food. If they're crying, give them a bag of chips or give them cookies or give them candy. Or if they won't sit still or whatnot, we give them Fruit Loops or a bag of animal crackers and stuff. It's like we always feel like children or people have to be comforted with food. And one thing I've noticed with black people is like it starts as a child, you're comforted with food as a way of, taking care of you and keeping you quiet. But it's like as you get older, you go to school and get bullied, you eat. Your parents and whatnot mistreat you, you eat. Or if not those two things, it's like you feel depressed and whatnot about your life and your weight. And so you eat. So it appears that with Irene's story and her upbringing is a upbringing that a lot of us in the black community can relate to because we do tend to have an unhealthy relationship with food, mainly because, we come from a church or we come from a religious background where we eat for everything. And then sometimes, due to single parenthood and whatnot, you may not always get the best care or the best knowledge about food. And, sometimes due to parents working so much, especially with single parents, there's not much care at home when it comes to food and cooking. Sometimes even with learning life skills or life lessons, because parents are not there to really teach you and train you what you need to know in order to grow up properly. So I could sympathize with Irene's story when she did talk about that. And then, we get to her teenage years where she talked about how even though she did get bigger and even though she did, not have as many friends, she was able to get a lot of boyfriends. Now, one thing I have noticed, and a lot of people have said this too, how are women who started off being this big or are this big are able to get men and boyfriends and whatnot. I just feel like to each its own. You never know what men are attracted to. You never know what they're going to like. You never know what they're going to be interested in. So that's how I see it. But at the same time, Irene is really pretty because a lot of these women on here, whether they have a man or not, they don't tend to be all that attractive. But I mean, Irene, just like the other woman that was on this 600-pound life who was a transgender. I have to think of her name. As a matter of fact, I'm about to look it up right now to see what Destiny. Yeah, that was her name. It was Destiny. So, with Destiny, she was the same way too. She kept her hair nice, she had her nails done, always wore nice clothes, very feminine, lashes, makeup. So I believe that, due to her upkeep, even though she was big and whatnot, and she even talked about how when she was showering that she would have to wash up twice a day in order to keep her skin and stuff clean and in order to keep the smell down. And then she said even though she was big, she was still mobile by like making herself work more, making herself get up, wash dishes, clean, cook, and all that. Because most people that be on these shows, they can't do nothing but eat. They be laying in the bed eating. They be in the kitchen, eating at the table, or they be in the living room, on the couch, on the lazy boy, eating. It's like all they're able to do is eat, and then they can't even go to the bathroom on their own. Somebody gotta wipe their butt, or they have to, pretty much use the bathroom in the bed, and they can't even shower themselves because they're so big and worn down by their weight. Somebody gotta come in and pretty much shower them, pretty much like a home health care person does. So I feel that Destiny and Irene, they're in a better condition mobile wise because they are able to still take care of themselves even though they're extremely, overweight. So moving along from that part, Irene, we do get to see her friends and her niece. She has a niece named Mimi who's really like her enabler, but you could tell she really loves her aunt, and that's why she keeps giving to her and whatnot. So we do see where Mimi is kind of like the enabler because in the beginning of the episode, she did bring her all those orders of Burger King. Then when we get to her later life story, after she talks about how at 16 she got pregnant, at 17 she had her first child, and then she talked about how when her parents died, because she said her mom had passed and she had an aunt that passed and she had an older sister that had passed, and it pretty much put her in a state of addiction with drugs. And by her parents dying, her family members dying, it put her in a stage of homelessness. And we've seen this before on the show because I remember there was a Hispanic guy on there who ended up in the same predicament because I remember that he and his brother, they were living out of hotels, and the same thing happened to them. They grew up in a family pretty much of people who were overweight. They ate a lot growing up, and a lot of people enameled that. And once the parents died, their family was pretty much, greedy because they said every time, as soon as the parents had died, the family then took what they wanted. And it's like nobody kept the house up, nobody was willing to pay for it. So they ended up homeless. Now, we don't know if that was Irene's case, but based on what she said within her, description of the episode, she pretty much, probably couldn't keep it up, may have not been working due to her, because we don't really hear about her going to work or having any type of career. So maybe due to her eating, she probably just stuck to the food addiction and whatnot. And due to everybody dying and her probably not being able to afford housing, that's why she ended up being homeless. So she talked about being homeless with her first child, and then she was in a homeless shelter. Then she met another man and ended up, getting pregnant again. And she got kicked out of the shelter because she was pregnant, and so on and so forth. And one thing I have noticed is that it's funny how your parents can spiritually pass down their burdens to you, because we do hear in the beginning of the episode where her father was physically abusive to her mom, and she talked about how her first boyfriend treated her the same way. I don't know what it is, but it just seems like when you grow up in a household of women or maybe of people, and it's like whatever they put up with, when you grow up around it and when you see it, and when you just choose to enable yourself in your environment, whatnot, to keep yourself going, it's like that kind of puts a radar or like a scar on you. And when men see it for whatever reason, it's like that same type that your mother or people in your household was dating or was with, they become attracted to you and they start liking you, and little do you know, you kind of fall into the same trap as your parents did. I just find it amazing how, spiritually our parents can pass on their sins or pass on their handicaps and stuff to us. So that was something else I kind of noticed too, by how her upbringing kind of curtailed and kind of spiraled in her life as an adult. So once we get done with her life story, we pretty much see her, eating and talking with her family members. I want to say this episode, it wasn't boring, but it was simpler. There's not really much to really like ravel at with this, because she pretty much did what she was supposed to do. It's like she knew she needed to lose the weight. It's like she pretty much knew that she was going to die eventually if she didn't lose the weight. And she talked about the aches and pains of being so big. She was passing out. And usually, by her passing out like that, her weight was probably getting so heavy on her chest and her stomach, it was probably pushing up against her lungs and crushing her airways. So her body was slowly crushing her. And so that's why she was passing out, then waking up hours or so later. And she talked about her back and stuff hurting her. And I'm sure because of all the weight and stuff she was carrying. And so, we pretty much dealt with that. And then she saw, the doctor, and they told her how much weight she was going to have to lose, the kind of diet she was going to be on. And, she pretty much did her job. Her son came in there, was cooking food for her. Mimi, her niece, was coming in there cooking food for her and everything like that. So she was pretty much doing everything. Then, the pandemic happened, and, she did get depressed and got tired because she wasn't able to go out as much or do as much because of the pandemic and everybody being on quarantine. But it seems that throughout this whole episode, she did everything that she was supposed to do, and she lost all of the weight that the doctor told her to. Now, one thing that we didn't see is the surgery part. A lot of times in my 600-pound life episodes, they have to lose all this weight in order to get greenlit for surgery. And she pretty much got greenlit for surgery, but it's like since the episode, we don't know if she ever got it, because I've looked up updates of, where's Irene now, and they're pretty much saying that with her social media pages, you can't really see anything. We don't know if she's lost any more weight. We don't know if she's had the surgery or if she's even sticking to her goal. So that's pretty much all that I have for this episode. Don't forget to like, leave a comment in the comment section, and subscribe to my channel. Have a good day.